Welcome back to Northern Perspective, everyone. I'm Cypher.
And I'm Fox, and we are broadcasting live from our nation's capital, Ottawa, Ontario.
And these days, it may not be that exciting to most people, considering what does or does not go on in Ottawa, Ontario. But we're here nonetheless. And it's going to be an interesting one tonight. We ask you to bear with us because this is the first time we've done a mobile stream since I think our very first stream way back in July of 2023. We've learned a few things since then, so hopefully we can bring you a much better quality of a live stream. We are interested in the audio quality and the audio volume from everybody. So if you could let us know how that's going, that would be great. It will inform us as to if we need to pump up the volume at all, or if we can continue on as is. So thank you very much, everyone. So before we get into it, Fox, if you want to go over the ground rules.
Yeah, so the same 3 rules as always. Please respect each other and the platform. No soliciting, spamming, or selling anything in the chat. And please keep the language parliamentary. We don't want to use cuss words, especially because our son's around here. You may hear him on the live stream tonight because he is not asleep as usual. He's too excited because we're in Ottawa.
Okay, so we're getting a mix of volume is good and volume is low. So let's see what we can do overall to address that. So this is probably as loud as I'm going to be able to do it. So hopefully that is better, and that's kind of a nice balance for everybody. So what a week in Parliament. It was a bit strange, to be honest, where Justin Trudeau announces there's going to be a housing catalog for people to select at the home they wish they could buy but they can't afford, to which we all know what Pierre's response to that was. And we had Mark Holland make some very peculiar claims regarding Canadians and road trips and vacations. So that's what we're going to actually focus on, because we didn't get a chance to do a video on that, so we felt that the live stream would actually be a great place to actually discuss that.
And we take special exception to that because we're a family that loves road trips. So yeah, we'll get into some of what he said and why I don't like it.
But before we get into that, Fox is going to handle the pre-stream activity from some of our contributors. So thank you very much for that, and I'll turn that over to Fox.
So thank you to Canadian Commando with a $5 super chat. It says, the prairies are checking in. Good evening, everyone from Kyrgyzstan, with a couple hearts and a Canadian flag. Thank you very much. And we have a $50 super chat from Humble Tracker. Thank you very much. It says, the only guarantee for failure is to stop trying. Perseverance is not a long race. It is many short races, one after the other. Many of life's failures are people who did not realize how close they were to success when they gave up. Very true. Thank you very much, Humble Tracker. And we also have Humble Tracker gifting 10 Northern Perspective memberships, followed by Casper H gifting another 10 Northern Perspective memberships. If you've received one of those memberships, please say thank you to Humble Tracker and Casper H. And we have RX gifting a $2 super chat. It says, hello, Mrs. Doubtfire. Thank you very much. I hope that impression was good.
Yeah, so it's a lot more difficult to handle live streams when you're on the road with only one screen.
And this hotel room's not really suited for it either. Cypher's kind of crouching at the desk, and I'm immediately behind him, so I can see him, but he can't see me. So it's definitely going to make things interesting.
That's going to be fun. Listless Receptionist with a $5 super chat. I'm so glad your faces didn't melt off from climate change. Enjoy your road trip. Well, it's not over yet, Listless Receptionist.
Yeah, there's still time.
There's still time for it to melt off like in Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark. So just give it time. So.
Although I will say the weather has been absolutely gorgeous, and I don't think we could have picked a better week for this. This has been fantastic so far.
Yeah, we did get lucky with the weather so far. So, we'll see how that goes. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about this, shall we? And if you hear our son in the background, he hasn't gone to bed yet. We've had a late dinner here, so.
And he's just too excited to be in Ottawa. When we first told him that we had booked the trip, he thought we were going immediately, and that was about a month ago. So he's so happy that we're finally here.
Yeah, yeah. It's been an interesting ride up because he was constantly saying Ottawa, Ottawa. So. Peter Engelman with a member comment. Did you guys see the decision by Greg Fergus about Mrs. Thomas? He ruled ejecting her from the House of Commons was justified. What a partisan a joke he is. Yeah, the only way that he could rule that was justified is if he can say, well, I legitimately didn't hear her. But that actually wasn't the reason why Ms. Thomas actually raised the question of privilege in the first place. It's because Hansard was changed. So we're going to go back and take a look at that a lot more closely and probably do a follow-up video on it and dig a bit deeper so we can kind of tie everything together for everybody. And Trish Pruill with a $2 super chat. Thank you very much. Road trips in the 70s was my best memories. Right? Right? I don't think and don't get us wrong. Road trips are not for everybody, but just as like cruising isn't for everybody if you can even afford it now. Just
or
as
airplanes.
Or camping, right? Like
yeah.
camping's not for everybody. So Fox hates camping. She loves road trips. So there you go. Mr. Excuses, member for 4 months. I'm maxing out all my credit cards on vacations to spite Mark Holland. Screw you, Mark. I'll even send the bill and picture of my family with smiles to really drive him nuts. And the other thing that you should do is just also send him a picture of your tailpipe of your car. I'm sure he'd love that too. And John Sakonovich, hopefully I got your name right. Welcome to NP Supporter. Thank you very much. Craig Robertson with a $2 super chat. The cost of your road trip, the world will burn. And Daniel T with a $2.79 super chat. We had the Griswolds, now we have the Hollands. That's amazing. Yeah. Griswolds are one of my favorite fictional families. Okay, so now it's funny that we're even talking about this, but the National Post ended up doing an article on this. So let's see what they had to say. Liberals mock 10-day summertime fun road trips as Tories propose summer vacation from carbon tax. What's the cost of this plan? Asked Liberal Health Minister Mark Holland. Give up the future of the planet. So what the heck is he talking about? Well, we're going to get to that in about 2 seconds as we lead up to that from question period on Thursday, May 30th. Lady Loves Cats with a $20 super chat. Welcome to my neck of the woods, you guys. Hello to you both, and hugs to both and your son.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for that. That's great. Okay, let's roll back a few days in the question period for those who haven't seen it, although I'm sure most of you have, and let's see what transpired.
The honourable member from Calgary, Forest Lawn.
After 9 years, this Liberal NDP Prime Minister is not worth the hunger or homelessness as 1 in 4 Canadians skip meals. Edith is a single mom in my community that can't afford to feed her kids because this Prime Minister doubled groceries and gas. And his bright idea, he jacked up the carbon tax 23%. Common sense Conservatives are calling on him to axe all federal fuel taxes this summer to save average families $670. Will he vote with us, or does he want more families like Edith's to go hungry and broke?
The Honourable Minister of the Environment and Climate Change.
Mr. Speaker, maybe I need to go through the math again to make sure that it is understood. The savings that the Conservative Party is claiming based on that assertion is based on the use of gasoline over the summertime of 3,293 liters of gasoline. Do the math, it's not complicated. At an average consumption of 8.9 liters per 100 kilometers, a family in Alberta would have to drive 37 kilometers to be able to benefit for those claimed savings, Mr. Speaker. This has nothing to do with reality. It would be nice for the Conservative Party of Canada to come down to earth and leave La La Land for a little while.
The Honourable
Leave La La Land for a little while. Yeah, sure, Chibo. This is the guy that was trying to sell the fact that the carbon tax was accounting for 30% of the emissions reductions that they are touting in committee.
What emissions reductions?
Well, but in actual fact, it was like 30% of, I think, 3%.
That's ridiculous.
So it's insane. It's absolutely insane. Before we move on, had a couple comments roll in over that. Mr. Roscoe Pico with a $10 super chat. Good to see you again. In my many road trips across Canada, my best road trip was when I tried to drive from Pemberton, BC to Ottawa only using back roads. Wow, that must have been
That's impressive.
a real scenic journey. I drive to Patagonia tomorrow if I could. That must have been a wild road trip, Mr. Roscoe Pico.
Yeah, we took Highway 7 to get here, which I think last time we took the 401 pretty much the whole way. And it was just so scenic and so beautiful. Like, I've been to Ottawa many, many times because I have family here, and I'm sure I must have gone the Highway 7 route when I was much younger, but I think anytime Cypher and I have driven through here, we've always taken the 401, and it was just so nice to stop and see all these small, beautiful little towns, and everybody had a Canadian flag, like waving on their flagpole. It was amazing. It was beautiful.
Yeah, we were looking up on realtor.ca.
To see if we could move.
But you know, housing prices. Jarson with a $5 super chat was watching a video earlier about the downfall of Ontario Place. Sad seeing all the rides and attractions abandoned, fenced off, and covered in dirt. Yeah.
Yeah, there's been a lot of theme parks within Southern Ontario that have just gone the way of the dinosaur, I guess. Like, I remember there used to be a theme park at Crystal Beach, and then there was like a water park right off of the QEW, I think in Beamsville. Like, there's all these places that just decayed, and it's really sad.
Alice Avonlea with a $5 super chat. Some people are just like a treasure. You just want to bury them.
Nice.
Isn't that the truth? And a member comment from Glenn Stewart. He needs to wake up and stop his dreaming or stop smoking that wacko stuff. Dandaman966 with a member comment. 5 months NP member, and we want to keep on rolling like Limp Bizkit. Trudeau must go. Election no. Best channel hands down. Thank you so much for
Thank
that,
you.
Dandaman966, and sticking with us all this time. Didu with Dudu with a $5 super chat. So what about all the fuel Trudeau burns fuel and pumping out carbon emissions on his never-ending vacations and private jets? Hold that thought, Dudu. I'm coming back to that. And Kevin Boudreau, welcome to NP Supporter Plus. Thank you very much. Okay, let's get back to finishing this video.
Member from Calgary, Forest Lawn.
Well, Liberal math for that anti-Alberta minister says that jacking up the carbon tax 20% is somehow going to fix forest fires and reduce the...
I'm going to just ask the honourable member, start from the top again, and just to rephrase it slightly on that front. The honourable member from Calgary, Forest Lawn, from the top.
Liberal math says jacking...
Oh yeah, I actually forgot about that part. Fergus was giving Halan crap because he said that Jibo was anti-Alberta. Like the speech restrictions coming into the House of Commons are just ridiculous now. And you're going to tell me that Greg Fergus is not partisan? Yeah, I don't think so. We have Jarsha with a $5 super chat. If I had time and money and a more reliable car, I'd love to take a road trip to Tuktoyaktuk, Northwest Territories, on the Arctic coast. 7,000 kilometers one way. Wow. Yeah, that would be something. And quite the drive. Dandaman966 with a $5 super chat. Election now, 2024. Miller is smelling his own emissions. Oy.
Nice.
You give me a cough on that one, and it's not good and about to lose 100%.
up the carbon tax 23% is going to somehow magically fix forest fires and reduce the cost of groceries like that Edith can't afford. And they think we're gullible and incompetent like the NDP, that we'd blindly support policies that made 2 million Canadians go into a food bank in a single month and that made 1 in 4 Canadians skip meals. Why don't they do everyone a favor? Give Canadians a break and put them out and finally end their misery. Call a carbon tax election so common sense Conservatives can scrap the carbon tax scam and Canadians can kick this costly carbon tax coalition to the curb.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Housing, Infrastructure and Communities.
There they go again, Mr. Speaker. They want to ruin the rebate for Canadians. A rebate that disproportionately impacts the middle class and lower-income Canadians working hard to join the middle class. I also noticed, Mr. Speaker, that throughout the past few weeks, they've been quoting from reports from Food Banks Canada, from Salvation Army, and those reports are important. We thank those organizations for those reports. What they point out are challenges faced by Canadians. In those recommendations, which they ignore, they point to programs that this government has continued to support, the Canada Child Benefit, for example, that they've voted against every single time.
The Honourable.
Just because you use numbers from an organization doesn't mean you also agree with all of the recommendations of said organization, right? This is the thing to consider whenever you're consuming news out there. And it's one thing we consider whenever we're using sources from, say, even the CBC or National Post or CTV. We always try and take it with a grain of salt and then fact check it if we're going to be using it in a story. So you can't just trust blindly everything that people are giving you. And as for the Canada Child Benefit, that's going to save people from going to food banks. Really. Like, the issue is that if you have a government that constantly puts out these policies that continuously drives up the cost of living, well, the answer to that is not to put in new programs that need funding to then put money in people's pockets so that they won't have to spend more money. It's just a never-ending cycle of spending money with this government, and it just leads to higher and higher taxes, killing the middle class, which kills the economy. So that's what ends up happening. Now, let's get back to here. Jerry Savoy, welcome back with a $5 super chat. Sorry, I'm late. NP supporter, 475 likes behind. Please hit the like. Absolutely. Thank you for that. And let's continue on. And we're coming up on Mark Holland.
Member from Lethbridge.
After 9 years, this NDP Liberal government is not worth the hunger and homelessness that it's causing so many Canadians across this country. Many Canadians just simply look forward to a small summer vacation, a road trip perhaps. It's normally a time where they can go and camp in the mountains or go to a national park or visit loved ones. But this year, many Canadians can't afford this simple delight because this government has made life too expensive. On Monday, this House will have the opportunity to vote on a common sense motion to save Canadians 35 cents per litre on gas. Will the Prime Minister vote with us, the common sense Conservatives, so that Canadians can afford a simple vacation, or will he force them to stay home?
The Honourable Minister of Health.
Mr. Speaker, good news, kids. You can take a summer fun time vacation where you're locked in a car for 10 consecutive days non-stop with no bathroom breaks, and the Conservatives have a plan for you to have that summertime fun. And the cost? Give up the future of the planet, right? Don't worry, kids, about climate change. Don't worry about taking action on the planet. Enjoy your 10 hours in the car and let the planet burn.
Did Holland go to the exact same drama school that Trudeau did?
Probably, because he does just as terrible a job.
Like, that is so ridiculous.
The fear mongering here,
It's disgusting.
it's beyond ridiculous. And here's the other thing that's beyond ridiculous. He is crapping on all of the Canadians that, they can't afford to fly. They can't afford to take a cruise. All they can afford is to literally drive their car and go sightseeing. And he's crapping on every single one of those Canadians.
But you know, we prefer road tripping. Number one, we love the scenery. We love the time we get to spend together in the car, just talking about anything and everything. You know, that was what we would do pre-Northern Perspective. That's kind of how it came about. It was, do you think people would be interested in hearing us have these conversations? And the other thing, it's like, when you're road tripping, typically you're staying within Canada. Sometimes you're going to the US, but typically you're staying within Canada, which means your money stays within the country. The money that you're spending to go on that road trip, to stay somewhere, the meals you're buying when you're not home, all these things go to fund the Canadian economy.
Well, the other thing that Holland is essentially suggesting is don't drive, fly. Which that's causing even more of a problem to the planet when you look at it, everything in aggregate. But I'll get to that in 2 seconds. Glenn Stewart with a $2 super chat. Sounds like a frog pond on the Liberal side. Yes, it does. And Daniel T with a $7 super chat from New Brunswick. And the ocean breeze always brings a smile on my face. You mean it's not blowing fire into your face because of all the road trippers?
Yeah, climate change.
Craig Robertson with a $2 super chat. Insight into Mark Holland's childhood.
Yeah, I was trapped in a car, not even allowed to use the bathroom.
Mommy, be quiet, Mark. Mr. Peachy with a $5 super chat. Hello, everyone. Hope everyone is having a good night. Thank you very much, and hope you are as well. Daryl Campbell with a $50 super chat. Thank you so much. Have you all seen the news coming down from the state government of Victoria in Australia? They have created a new ministry that I'm sure is going to save humankind, but I advise you to take a double dose of your anti-hysterical meds. Just saying. We actually haven't heard of that yet, Mr. Campbell, but we will definitely take a look, because that sounds like something that Trudeau will think is a really good idea. Trish Pearl with a $5 super chat. Are the Liberals saying it's okay for newcomers to travel to parks? Free entry, but Canadians shouldn't. Free entry, but Canadians shouldn't. Inquiring minds want to know. Well, that's the thing. Like, according to the Liberals, you shouldn't be driving anywhere. You should be, staying at home, not working, collecting CERB.
Only the rich people are allowed to travel.
Right. And Rob Barkhouse, member for 5 months. The amount of disgust and hate I have for the Liberals is unfathomable. Thanks, NP, for sharing, so I can share with others so that they feel the same. Yeah, it's unreal, the narrative that the Liberals are taking with this, and it's the hill that they're going to die on. Now, the interesting thing that I want to show everybody. So, it was brought up about Trudeau's traveling, right? Trudeau's traveling. Well, let's take a look at Trudeau's traveling, shall we? Now, this is a list of every single trip that Justin Trudeau has taken. So, back in 2015, he went to Turkey, the Philippines, United Kingdom, Malta, France, St. Kitts and Nevis, Switzerland, United States. Okay, so this is going to take a while, so we're going to go all the way down.
And some of these were for state business, like, let's be real
Even
here.
so.
But,
Even so.
I mean, if you're traveling, you're burning jet fuel, so, don't be a hypocrite.
We're still going, folks. We're only at 2022, right? And we're already over 57 trips. We're still going. 2023, we're still going. 2024. So his last trip was to Ukraine and Poland. Okay? Now, you may think, all right, well, how did he do on those? And what countries is he visiting most? Well, here's a map of all of the countries that Trudeau has visited since he took office. And the one that he has visited most it's essentially a tie between England, the United States, and France. So I was wondering, well, what's the distance between Ottawa and Paris, France? Because that's probably where he's flying to, right? So the distance between Ottawa and Paris, France is 5,645 kilometers. Okay, so How many times did he go there? Well, according to that Wikipedia page, he has traveled to France 7 or more times. Now, how much is that? Well, that is actually around 39,200 kilometers traveled both ways. And that's if he only went 7 times. So what this is really saying and coming back to is Trudeau and his government are telling Canadians, don't be taking road trips because you're going to kill the planet and you're going to set it on fire by driving your car across Canada and to Fox's point, keeping Canadian money within the Canadian tourism industry, supporting small business, supporting local restaurants, supporting local bed and breakfast, supporting local motels.
Supporting your countrymen.
Right. But, you know, he can travel 40,000 kilometers there and back just to France, and that's completely fine. That's not going to set the planet on fire. That's going to do, you know, nothing but save the planet from climate change, allegedly.
The cognitive dissonance is unreal.
So, you know, you really want to put it in perspective for everybody. Show them this segment of the live stream because it just lays it all bare and it reveals the absurdity of the entire Liberal platform just from one guy, Justin Trudeau. Right? Because it's not like he's getting on a plane with a bunch of other Canadians that are going to the same place. No. That's his jet. He's taking people with him. But he's going for that purpose. And this doesn't count the Governor General and all of the other trips that the ministers make. It doesn't count the trip that Jibo took to China to talk about climate change, ironically, where he was told, don't talk about climate change on this National Environmental Committee that he sits on. So just take all of that into perspective. Excuse the pun. Doo-doo with a $10 super chat. My entire childhood summers were camping and road trips with the occasional music festival, and it was one of the best times I had growing up. So what's wrong with road trips? There's nothing wrong with them.
Road trips are awesome.
And it's one of the most affordable ways that Canadians can actually enjoy their summers. So, Bill Vandervelden with a member comment for 6 months. My wife and I are planning a road trip from Hamilton to Ottawa this October. We will enjoy it even more knowing it will take off the Liberals. Yeah, go, you know, that 10 kilometers over just to burn that a little bit more gas, right? Johnny O, member comment for 6 months, just returned from a 10,500 kilometer from Ottawa to High Level and Calgary, Alberta to visit our new grandson. Gas, hotels, and meals still cheaper than flying.
And congratulations on your new grandbaby.
Mm-hmm. And Spiky Mikey 33 with a $5 super chat. He messed up his own speech. He said 10 days at the beginning, then 10 hours at the end. Pardon me. I get excited every time I see a new Northern Perspective video come up on YouTube. Thank you, guys. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you. It's our pleasure.
Carolyn Grunland, member comment for 6 months. There's nothing better than a road trip with the music cranked and our kids and family. We took many road trips to the West Coast when my husband was alive. That's
yes,
amazing.
That's the way to do it. We listened to Billy Talent the whole way here because I was in control of the radio.
And Peter G with a $5 super chat. This sounds like them pushing for the 15-minute cities even harder. Could be.
It does.
B. Nemo, member comment for 5 months. The sad thing about all this is Trudeau and Jagmeet only care on the WEF program, not their parties or Canadians. And Diane Sylvain's jumping in with a $50 super chat. Thank you so much. Holland sounds like a raving lunatic from the Extinction Rebellion group. If it quacks like a duck, it is a duck. He is the one living in La La Land. He missed all the misery of camping and the great outdoors and the doorstep of most Canadians. And that's the thing, right? When we went out to New Brunswick last year, just driving through the mountains in Quebec and New Brunswick, that was amazing. Just looking at all the trees and watching our forestry industry in action. When you see all the renewable forests out there, and you see the different zones where there's the different trees and the different stages of maturity, and you can tell you know, those ones are going to be cut in 5 years. Those ones are going to be cut in 10 years. Those ones are going to be cut in 20 years. It's amazing the art that the forestry industry actually has that down to. And it's just great to see different parts of Canada and meeting Canadians across the country. Like, it's one thing to meet Canadians such as yourselves on YouTube and in a chat, but it's something else entirely. I'm sure everybody would agree to meet them in person, shake hands, and just see the different people from every different part of this country. You know, it is something that I wish every Canadian could experience at some point. And most of the time, you only get that through road trips, or if you want to cut your time down, you know, you do a flight cross country and then rent a car as you go. So, but it's definitely going to be times when our son's older that we're going to look back on with really fond memories. Sean, member comment for 7 months. Road trips are my favorite. My most recent was Toronto to Saskatoon to Halifax, back to Saskatoon before home to Toronto. Holy moly.
That's one heck of a road trip. That's awesome.
Safe travels, my friends. Thank you very much. Yeah, we should be back a bit later this week. But
and thank you to Listless Receptionist with a $2 super chat. It says, we need a Helping the Planet Burn bumper sticker.
Right. So, now, some of you might be wondering, well, okay, so all of this is well and good, but what has been happening in the polls? And the good news is, not much. So let's take a look. So this is the latest polling, and you can see Nano's research. They have the Liberals up to 26.3%. Leger has the Liberals down to 23%, and the NDP is, you know, still kind of hovering around 18. Now, the Conservatives, they're just doing their ping pong between 41 and 44. So they're sitting at 42 right now, which is where they're going to be bobbing around. So they're going to go down 2 points, they're going to go up 2 points. That's probably where they're going to stick. Now, one interesting thing that I'm going to actually see if I can pull up here, that I caught the other day, I was really, really surprised by it. So, let's see. I want.
It's federal.
Federal.
And then by province.
Yeah. This is what I want. Okay. So this is one of the latest projections for Quebec, and the Conservatives are starting to get up there.
The other day, I think they were 1 point ahead of the Liberals. So it was the Bloc at the first spot, and then the Conservatives, and then the Liberals 1 point behind. So it looks like they've updated 338canada.com to reflect some new polling. But it was very surprising to us that the Conservatives were in second place.
Well, and I think it was the Leger poll that we saw, and this is the one that Fox is referring to, because 338 is the aggregate, right? Where they had the Bloc. This is just for the federal projections for the province of Quebec for the popular vote. The Bloc was at 29%. The Conservatives were 29%. So the Conservatives were actually ahead of the Liberals in the Leger poll, and that was really shocking to us. And that's because the Conservatives have typically been in third place in Quebec for the longest period of time. But according to Leger, they're neck and neck. And that also just shows that the Liberals have been continually losing ground in every province, including Quebec, which is, you know, one of their staples for maintaining a certain number of seats. The other thing that it means is that for the Bloc, only 30% of the population actually wants the Bloc to actually be in Parliament. So that's an interesting stat too. That means 70% of the province does not want the Bloc around. So there's a lot of interesting stats to be mined and some insights to be mined from these polls when you're looking at them. So just something to note. Robbie004 with a $2 super chat. Have we heard about CBC actually giving out bonus? Well, so
we did a video about it a few days ago. If you go back in our channel history, you'll see it. There's a big picture of Catherine Tate with a stack of $100 bills right on the thumbnail, and that's the one. I don't think that they actually give the bonuses out until like a month or two from now. So like the executives won't see it in their bank account for another month or two, but they have approved them. So they are coming.
yeah, so it seems like what has happened is that so Catherine Tate it seems like she was telling a falsehood with some sprinkles of truth, and that's the most dangerous lie, right? So she has said, well, you know, we're going to meet with the board to discuss the bonuses in June. While that may be true, the one thing that she seems to have told a falsehood on, because there seems to be documentation on, which is in our video, is that they have put together their recommendation for what those bonuses might be, which is around $50 million. Because Catherine Tate can't just show up to to the board meeting in June and say, so everybody, what do you think our bonuses should be? They're going to look at her and say, you're the president, what's wrong with you? So what she will bring is a recommendation based on all of their statistics, all of their measurables, and all of their objectives. And then she will say, this is what all of the recommendations for bonuses are for CBC. And in most cases, unless the person is completely out to lunch, the board will then say, okay, approved. So all of that has already been decided. So that's where she was most likely telling a falsehood, and that's what's in our video. So while the employees haven't been likely paid yet, that's coming soon, as Fox said. And Steve Hyde with a $5 super chat. Sorry, I couldn't come shake your hands, working stuff, but I was very close. Anyway, all the best, guys, and keep up the great work. That's interesting, Steve. I'm not sure what you mean by
Thanks,
that.
Steve. I wonder, did we blow our cover?
Maybe, I don't know. If so, thanks, Steve, for not blowing it. And carpet all those DMs. That's amazing.
That's clever.
99. Welcome to NP Supporter. Excellent. Thank you very much. And I think that's all of the super chats. So, so that was mostly what we had for the first part of the show.
I will say that I was very offended the way Mark Holland was like, oh, you know, these kids are trapped in a car for 10 hours or 10 days or however he misworded it, you know, and they can't even go to the bathroom. I mean, our son was 7 last year when we did a cross-country road trip to New Brunswick, and he loved every minute of it. We were very concerned because we drove to Ottawa, which is a few hours, and we stayed a few days. And then we drove from Ottawa straight to where we were staying in New Brunswick, which I think with the stops was like 14 hours. And he was fine in the car. We were very worried about him because he'd never been on a car ride that long before. And he just loved it. So I think that's so horrible that you're painting parents with this bad brush, saying like, how dare you drag your kids on a road trip and keep them in the car for any length of time.
Crash TV says, you guys aren't screaming yet from screaming in agony from being on fire. Well, we have a high pain tolerance, so that has something to do with it, I guess. Glenn Stewart, the $5 super chat. Hitchhiked from coast to coast 10 times.
Wow.
Walked a few miles, but I met so many Canadians, rich, poor, all colors. It was Canada, but not now. Yeah, it's... I don't know if I would recommend anybody hitchhike from coast to coast at this point.
Oh, although I do have a little story. We were at the Canadian Museum of Science and Technology today, and they had the original Hitchbot, which if you've heard the story, I think it was a bunch of, I don't know, scientists, I'm not quite sure who made it, but they made this little robot that would ask for a ride, and I think they started in Nova Scotia, if I'm not mistaken, and they had him hitchhike all the way to BC. And it was just cool to see because people had written, like, they had put their signatures on it, they had put bracelets on this little robot. It was really cool.
Yeah, I think they set him loose in 2014 was the date. And then they tried a second experiment with the United States, and unsurprisingly, he was destroyed on the way.
Yeah, he was like stripped for parts. But the original bot is in the Canadian Science and Tech Museum.
Construction Cronies with a $5 super chat. Went on many cross-country trips with my folks, even through the USA. I loved them. My sister and I actually got along, and it was really amazing. Oh, fantastic. And Diane Sylvain with a $20 super chat. And I don't have the memes available for everybody. I'm sorry about that. Oh, come on! Road trips are awesome. I've driven across Canada 2 times with friends, going to McGill from Alberta with a big picture of Bruce Springsteen inside my car roof. Dating myself. LOL. Did 1 trip on a train and loved it. Yeah, the problem is the train is so expensive these days. I would love to do a trip on a train, but our son really loves trains. That's some of the things that he likes seeing at the Science and Technology Museum earlier today. But one day, hopefully, when things get a bit more affordable. Alice Avonlea with a $2 super chat. Ticker son, PP leads JT in Quebec just 5 minutes ago. There you go.
Awesome.
Looks like we beat them to the punch. Darcy with a $5 super chat. So sorry to hear that Mark's parents did that to him. We finally know who hurt him. Hopefully he gets the therapy he needs. Yeah. In therapy, they'll give him a picture of a car and say, "Show me on the car where it hurt you." Daniel T with a $2.79 super chat. Holland is suffering from emotional damage.
We have to be a little bit quieter because it looks like our son's fallen asleep finally.
Yeah.
So.
And Cracker Ding Dong with a $5 super chat here in New Brunswick. Irving takes all the hardwood and replace it with softwood. Oh, there you go.
Interesting.
There you go. So, but I think at this point, are we able to take questions or no?
Yeah, we should be able to take some questions. We might have to pick them out of the chat because I'm not sure if Barnaby's able to, because he's kind of on his own tonight, but...
Oh, Barnaby's used to mining questions from everybody. I'm sure we'll be fine. But as we're waiting for some of those questions to be sent in from the crowd, one thing that is I'm not going to say going to complicate our little trip here, but a little bird told us that there may be an ArriveCAN committee meeting on Wednesday, and the witness that may be joining them may be the one and only Min Doan. And I think there may be some truth to that, because we did, when we were looking for videos to do, I believe it was last week or the week before, I believe it was last week, there was a OGO committee where they were discussing a motion to haul Min Doan in just like they did Christian Firth. So it's going to be interesting to see what happened, because Min Doan all of a sudden went unavailable after his testimony, and he went on stress leave. And they weren't able to bring him in again to essentially re-examine his testimony as a result of all of the other facts that have come in. So we will keep everybody updated on that. We may end up doing a live stream on committee.
From Montreal, because that's where we're headed next.
So that will be interesting if we can do that. So stay tuned. We will let you know as more facts become available to us. Riding the Pines with a $5 super chat. Any thoughts on the upcoming by-election, Toronto St. Paul's? What are the chances of an upset? Well, let's take a look at St. Paul.
It was close. I think last time we looked, it was only 3% ahead.
Well, it's it all depends. So
okay, so what's that? 5% this time.
So there's a 5% difference in the popular vote. They're predicting the odds of winning are on the Liberal side, but it all depends. By-elections are finicky, right? Because not everybody gets out and votes during a by-election. So that could actually lean in the Conservatives' favor.
Yeah, so the pollsters will call people, usually they're calling on a landline and saying, hey, who are you going to vote for in the by-election? And they'll say Liberal, but won't actually show up at the polls to cast a ballot.
Right, because it gets far less public publicity than the federal election, and a lot of people forget about it. A lot of people that just say, you know, I'm not going to worry about it. But this could be a riding that the Conservatives steal here, especially the popular vote. So, if you're living in St. Paul's, if you are, if you know anybody who's living in that riding, get the word out and make sure that people are aware of that. As it gets closer, we're going to be making sure that we do our part to publicize that, so that people know. Get out and vote. That could be a new seat, and there you can never have enough seats in the House of Commons. I'm sure everybody would agree with that. So, great question, Riding the Pines. Thank you very much for that. Will Kalchuk with a $5 super chat. I loved road trips. Growing up, 7 hours in a car playing punch bug. Yes, sir. and an hour boat ride to the cottage. It was the best. Absolutely, it was. Cracker Ding Dong, welcome to NP supporter. Thank you very much. Domino, remember comment for 3 months. Don't ever take the train across Canada. I am a railroader that has worked on the tracks across all of Canada. I will take your word for it. Employee of CN Rail, I guess. Mr. Excuses with a $5 super chat. Toronto, St. Paul's by-election coming up. I think Conservatives will pull it off, and just address that. Thank you. Jerry Savoy with a $5 super chat. Have a call from Conservatives saying election in the fall. Okay, let me address this. So, the Conservative fundraisers are going to try to get as much money as possible. And to do that, they will say that a election could be in the fall. And that's one way that they will try to get people to give money. They don't know. The Conservatives won't know if there's going to be an election. The only person that will is either Jagmeet Singh, which he has told everybody that he's not going to do anything, or Justin Trudeau. Now, as we said in our video the other day, it's going to be interesting to see how Justin Trudeau and the Liberals react to Jagmeet Singh essentially screwing them over on their pensions as it relates to the electoral reform and the Liberals wanting to push back the election date by a week. Because that's going to impact a bunch of Liberals. So what do you do? Well, if you're Justin Trudeau and you're feeling really vindictive, why would you not say, all right, Jagmeet, you want to screw over my MPs on their pensions? I'm going to screw you over on your pension. Because if Justin Trudeau called an election in the fall, guaranteed Jagmeet Singh would lose, and then he wouldn't get his magical pension that he's been kind of angling to receive this whole time. Wouldn't that be fun? I don't think it's going to happen, but you know, we can imagine the fun that would happen, and then you wouldn't necessarily see a lot of stones being thrown between the NDP and the Liberals and the Conservatives. They would probably be throwing mud at each other over that, because it's really, you know, a pissing match between the two of them at that point, and the Conservatives just sit back and laugh. So it would be really interesting to see what happened there. And Johannes Johnson with a member comment, sticking around for 3 months. Thank you very much. I spent almost every summer at my grandparents' farm near Verdun, Manitoba. Was always sad when harvest was in because it meant summer was over.
Aww.
Yeah, there was something like that, right? And I think all of us, when we remember summers when we were younger, summer felt like it lasted 6 months. And I think that was just because as we were young, we weren't worried about what was coming next, and we just lived in the moment, and the moment lasted forever. So, anyway, Fox, what do you got for questions? Do you have any in?
Yeah, I've got a few. We have SW warning us that if you're hitchhiking, don't let Mark Holland pick you up.
They'll light you on fire.
I don't think that'll be a problem. We have Chris Okonowicz asking, is JT assigning a private rapporteur to the Winnipeg scandal?
I doubt it. I think he's just waiting for that to go away. I really do. Even though it's in committee, I think what he's just waiting for is some recommendations to come out, a report to come out from committee, and then he can bury it like he's tried to bury everything else. But the other interesting thing, speaking of rapporteurs and burying, one thing that is not being buried is the fact that Justice Marie-Josée Hogue is not getting what she wants from the Liberal government as it relates to documentation that's in cabinet confidence that she was promised.
Well, and they keep saying, you know, oh, it's because it's cabinet confidence, blah, blah, blah. You guys promised you would give it to Justice Hogue, and you don't have to give it to the public, but she needs to see it. You said that she would be able to see it, and now you're withholding it from her?
Yeah, and all that's going to do is result in a finding in her report that basically says, well, you know, from what we were able to see, here's my conclusions. The problem is there's a lot we weren't able to see because we weren't given the documentation, so that leaves some of this in question and in doubt. That is not the end of a public inquiry that you want, that it's more questions raised, because all it does is confirm what all of us rational and common sense Canadians are actually saying, which is the government is hiding something and they don't want us to see it. And the question is why? Why don't they want us to see this?
Well, and in that article we had read, I forget who it was, but they had said, if the government does not hand over these documents, Canadians can pretty much assume that it's to hide some sort of wrongdoing.
Yep. Marco Peruza with a $5 super chat. What are your thoughts on the Brampton, Ontario student protest? Also, what are your thoughts on county caps or county or country caps limit for immigration? So in terms of the Brampton student protest, we haven't followed that one too closely. We've been kind of paying attention to all of the student protests across the country in aggregate, and mainly the fact that while they started off, you know, with some momentum and some support, the institutions or the areas that are actually putting up with the protests are getting really tired of it. And it's amazing how many, I would say, non-Palestinian people are actually protesting at these protests. And it's something that I just shake my head at.
I think the Brampton one might be in regards to like extending visas for advanced degrees, like master's degrees and PhDs.
Oh, maybe.
I'm not 100% sure. Again, this isn't something that we've been following super closely. It's just kind of one of those things that I've seen in passing. I mean, I'm not sure how to feel about that specifically, but the whole international student program needs an overhaul. A lot of these universities are using it. I mean, it's a cash cow for them. Let's be real. I mean, some colleges are now known as diploma mills because that's what they do. They just accept so many international students and just hand out diplomas like candy, and it's becoming a problem. The other thing I think is concerning is that international students are permitted to work 20 hours per week. Why? If you're coming here from another country, you're supposed to be able to support yourself without needing a job, without needing to take jobs from Canadians. Again, I think the whole program needs an overhaul, and these are just some of the issues.
Wilson Weber with a $5 super chat. What do you think about the possibility of Doug Ford's call for an early provincial election? You know, it depends, because Doug Ford right now is taking advantage of all of the anti-Trudeau hate, because that's spilling over into the different provinces. Andrew Furey, if you recall, who's the premier for Prince Edward Island, is it?
Oh gosh.
Or is it Newfoundland?
Is it Newfoundland? I think it's Newfoundland.
Might be Newfoundland.
You guys can correct us in the chat.
But he actually was remarking on the fact that when he's going around and talking to constituents, they're telling him, I hate what you're doing, I hate Trudeau, I hate the carbon tax, and he constantly has to correct people. So if you're Doug Ford, right, you're probably thinking of an early election, and that way it buys you a lot more time, because once the Conservatives get into the federal election, I think that's going to change how people are, how people might vote. So get in now, take advantage of the public perception of what it is to be a liberal, and see if that carries over in the polls. So it's not a terrible idea.
Well, and I think he's also trying to get ahead of Bonnie Crombie gaining any popularity.
Absolutely.
Because she just became leader, like within the past few months. So if he does it now, maybe she won't have the momentum to actually beat him. Either way, I think Cypher and I are probably going to be rejecting our ballots again.
Yeah, so we'll see. We're not telling everybody else to. It's just
that's
how
the
we
decision
feel.
that we're going to make. That's the decision we made in the last provincial election, and it's most likely going to be the decision that we'll make in the next one if the leaders and everybody stays the way it is.
Yeah, in our opinion, Ford doesn't run the Conservative Party of Ontario as a Conservative. So, Alice Avonlea with a $5 super chat. So far, Libs are reliable for a minimum of 1 to 2 scandals a week. That may be another way into an early election.
Oh, absolutely. I think if the pressure on Arrive scam gets bad enough, or the SNC Lavalin scandal rears its head again, any of these scandals, if the pressure gets high enough, if the heat gets hot enough, they could call an election to avoid it.
Yep. And Mr. Excuses with a $5 super chat. Mark Holland acts like cars run on the same way as Ghost Rider's motorcycles. Oh, that was a good one. Will Kowchuk with a $5 super chat. What do you think of Doug Ford saying enough is enough at the protest, and smash the likes, 10 memberships in at 1,000. There you go, folks. 10 memberships from Will Kowchuk at 1,000 likes. So
if it's the university protest, I mean, he's kind of got a point. You can't occupy private property with a protest.
Yeah.
If you stay on the sidewalk, if you stay in a public park, that's different. But a university is private property, so you can't just occupy private land like that. I mean, it would be like somebody or a group of people even setting up tents on your front lawn and trying to protest something or other. You can't do that.
Well, I also don't understand, what are you hoping to achieve in Canada by protesting what's happening in the Middle East? Seriously, like, what are you hoping to achieve here? If you really want to help, go over to the Middle East. But I bet all these people that are protesting don't want to do that. And that's kind of the point. It's like, listen, if you hate it here so much, well, why don't you go back to the country that you seem to like so much? So it's a very messy situation. That seems to be the way Ford is approaching it. But with regard to the specific issue of university land, they don't have a right to protest there. They could protest on the sidewalk, but they actually don't have a democratic right to protest on private property. Steve Hyde with a $5 super chat. Dougie does what is good for Dougie. During the lockdowns, he only opened what he liked. Yeah, and the bar, sure. The gym, nah. Yeah, that was
none of that stuff made any sense.
No, you know, he started out well when he was just trying to do what was necessary, moving his truck around. You know, that was good stuff, and he wasn't doing it for cameras. He was just doing it, and he was just caught on camera. And then it all went into the crapper after that. Wayne Noonan with a $7 super chat. Did you see the pro-Palestine protesters block the Pride Parade? No, I didn't.
We did not see that.
Oh my goodness, when the left eats itself. It's like the snake game on your phone. When the left eats itself. Isn't that something? We'll have to check that out. Thank you very much for that, Wayne. Wilson Weber with a $5 super chat. We do need a new Conservative leader in Ontario. Doug Ford does rub me the wrong way. He is a major flip-flopper. Yes, he is. Canadian Commander with a $5 super chat. Thanks for saying that about Ford. He is suddenly acting conservative when the Libs are on the way out, used car salesman through and through. Yeah, there's a lot of things that need attention in Ontario, and I don't know what he's doing. I do not think he's a competent guy, and I do not think this Conservative government in Ontario is a competent Conservative government. So that's why we continue to say we are not about party, we are about platform.
No, I would say they're not competent. We've had to go through our MPP to speak to the health minister, and there's been like 4 different health ministers. It's nuts. Like, why is this file being passed around and passed around and passed around? Like, we had an appointment with the health minister. This is going back to last year. And then they called us and said, oh, that person's not the health minister anymore. There's going to be a new one, and you're going to have to wait a while so they can catch up on the file. And it's like, well, our son can't wait.
Yeah, and the 50,000 other kids that suffer from the same issue as our son does, they can't wait either. It's just been a gong show. Mr. Excuses with a $5 super chat. Am I the only one afraid to see what may happen with Palestine protests and Pride Month downtown Toronto? Yeah, it will be interesting.
I hope there's no violence. I hope, obviously, we don't want people hurting each other. That's not okay.
It will be interesting to see just from a blame perspective as to how the media tries to twist this into somehow blaming the Conservatives for causing it in the first place. But I agree. I think I don't think the Toronto police are looking forward to that. I can say that right now. Alice Avonlea with a $2 super chat. Be woke, you die in. Be woke, you die in that area. CEA, do what you want. There you go. Okay. What else do we got for questions, Fox?
All right, just one second here. This is from Sue C54. It says, Barnaby, can you please tell me if the budget has been voted on yet? I cannot find out anywhere on the web. Thanks.
So I know at least the first part of the budget has been voted on, and it has passed. And I think there's still a couple of other votes that are needed, but it is expected to pass, especially with all of the song and dance the NDP is doing.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, it's Bill C69.
Yep.
So let's see. Just having a quick look on Legisinfo to see. It is currently in the Standing Committee on Finance. So it's passed first and second reading.
Yep. So once that makes it out of the Finance Committee, it'll come back for another vote, and then it'll be done. And then, no doubt, off down to the Senate and off to Royal Assent, because they need to pass that. Otherwise, government-funded departments shut down, and that's not a good thing.
This one's cute. This is from Mr. Readify. It says, can we get little man his own chat name so he's part of the MP Nation? Just a thought. Aww.
We'll consider that.
What about Kit? Because that's like a baby fox, right?
Well, we'll see.
Okay, we'll think about it.
We'll see. Next.
This is from Northern Gal. It says, can the Governor General call an election, or is that just on the request of the Prime Minister? Technically, the Governor General can call an election. However, it has never happened that the Governor General just does it. It's always been on the request of the Prime Minister, or because we've reached the end of the term, which again technically is on the request of the Prime Minister.
Yeah, that's been the standing practice for the 150 odd years. Actually, 157 years at this point. And we don't anticipate that changing anytime soon. Daryl Campbell with a $2 super chat. Did you have time to Google that new ministry yet? No, I've been running the show, Daryl.
Yeah, we're kind of diminished in what we can do. Like our normal home setup, Cypher's got he's got 2 monitors that essentially function as 3 monitors, and then I've got a monitor up. And right now we're just on 2 laptops trying to run things as smoothly as we can. So unfortunately our capacity for that sort of thing is diminished while we're on the road. We have a question from Glenn Stewart. It says, did you see the latest headline on Mr. Sunshine Baby? JT threw a fit and then threatened to quit.
No. Unfortunately, we don't typically have time to follow other creators just because we have so much research to do ourselves. And even if we did, we like to do our own research to make sure that we are getting all of the facts from the source. That's why we cite our sources in every video. And that's also how all of our viewers know that we're not just making this stuff up as we go along. And we are giving you the data, we're giving you our opinion, and then providing you the link so you can go and see it yourself. So,
and also we've been doing fun stuff around Ottawa the last couple days.
Yeah, so we've been definitely multitasking Northern perspective as we moved along here. Daniel T with a $7 super chat. To all armchair protesters, it's one thing to criticize a war, but it's another to fight one. Yes, that is certainly true. And I think everybody that participated in the trucker convoy really found that out firsthand too. Okay.
Flying Beaver says, I'd like to see a bumper sticker that says Liberals, 2 seats or bust. Very nice.
Well, if the blue wave does come out in full force during the election, it might be two seats, but we'll see. We'll see how we do there.
Rob K says, did Cypher and Fox make it to Parliament for either question period or committee meeting?
So question period, we are trying to get into that tomorrow. Fingers crossed, we will. And committee, we may try and make it into to one of the committee meetings on Tuesday if we can get into one of those. So fingers crossed. Those two will be off the bucket list. And for those interested and those in Ottawa, you actually don't need any sort of pass to get into committee, is what we learned. You can actually just walk in unless they're doing an in-camera session of committee. But question period, you do absolutely need a pass. And
yeah, you need to go through your MP. I think if you just show up at the House of Commons, because they have like a visitor center, I think they'll still like register you and let you in, but it's best to go through your MP.
Mm-hmm. And we have Will Kowalchuk with a $5 super chat. What is up with the new capital gains tax? Trying to sell a rental, will we be hit hard or not? I believe so. I believe
I don't know if they've decided yet. I think after the doctors had such an uproar that the not the Conservatives, sorry, that Trudeau and the Liberals are kind of backing off. They pulled it out of the main budget so that it's its own bill, but I don't know if they've even done first reading with that.
Yeah, I have a feeling that the NDP were giving them a real hard time on the capital gains tax in the budget, and that's probably why they pulled it out.
And that's thanks to all of you, because almost all of the letters that we had read were regarding the capital gains tax. Like when you guys emailed the NDP, you told them, we don't want a capital gains tax because we want our doctors to stay in Canada.
Yeah, so while we don't know for sure,
I think you guys had a huge hand in getting that pulled from the main budget.
I think
Absolutely.
so. And so kudos to you guys, because remember, that's thousands and thousands of letters to the NDP caucus that ended up going out, just as a result of the dedication of everybody on this channel. So thank you very much for that.
And that's the power of what can happen when we all work together.
Because the initial assumption is that it was pulled out of the budget in order to force the Conservatives into talking about it. But that's not how this was positioned at all, right? It hasn't really come up in the House. So I think they pulled it out and they're trying to figure out what the heck to do with it. Now, it presents a big problem for the budget because the capital gains tax was supposed to provide around $20 billion in revenue for the federal budget. Well, what if that doesn't get passed now? Your $38 billion deficit budget now becomes a $58 billion deficit budget. So what does that mean? Don't know. So this is some of the issues that are actually still up in the air as it relates to the Liberals and the budget. So Jerry Savoy with a $5 super chat. Could have one bus ticket, get Liberal Party out of the country, right? That's economy for you. It's at least the cabinet there, Jerry. And Diane Sylvain with a $5 super chat. What the hell is going on with the crying fest of Khalid and Pam Damoff in committee? Seems over the top. What is the real agenda? Both crying. I
don't know.
I think, well, we do know that after our Khalid video that she got a lot more mail from people that watched it. And most of them were very respectful.
Yeah, because we did receive a few emails that they were hard, like they were stern. We'll say they're stern, but they weren't name calling, they weren't swearing, they weren't making threats, and I think some of these elected officials forget that they work for us, the people, and if you're not going to do a good job, the people who are essentially your boss are going to let you know that you're not doing a good job. So you need to be able to accept that feedback. You know, is it hard? Sure, nobody likes to hear that they're not doing a good job, but if you're not doing a good job, expect to hear that you're not doing a good job. And again, we say this all the time, if you're going to be writing MPs, do not curse, do not threaten, and do not name call.
Yeah, absolutely. Saw a couple references to it in the chat, so I will call it out. Congratulations if you are an Edmonton Oiler fan. The Edmonton Oilers just beat the Dallas Stars 2-1 and are on their way to the Stanley Cup final.
Bring it home to Canada.
To face the Florida Panthers. So that's going to be an interesting one. I'm still probably going to pick the Panthers just because I think they have a lot more physicality over the Oilers on this one. So, but it should be a really, really interesting final. So, but Team Canada all the way. I'm rooting for the Oilers. I don't care, even if I'm a Leaf fan. Bring the cup back to Canada. So, and it would nice to see. It'd be nice to see McDavid win one as well. He's been just having a monster playoffs. And thank you, Canadian Commando, with 10 gifted Northern Perspective memberships. Thank you very, very much for that. We're at 905 likes. If we can get those doorbells pressed and get that over 1,000, we'll, I believe as Will Kowalczyk had mentioned that he was going to drop some memberships for everybody as well. So there you go. Okay, what's our next question?
Our next question, this is a good thought-provoking one. It's from Stinger007. It says, it seems as though our charter is open to interpretation. Is there any way the charter can be rewritten to disallow new laws that serve the ruling party?
Yes, there is. So the best laws are ones that deal with current societal problems and anticipate future ones. There's some laws that we have that actually haven't changed since the founding of the country. There's some that have and that have needed revision. Some laws are unavoidable in that you'll need revising because they are, written for the time and could only be written for the time because of what it is. For example, any of the telecommunications laws, there's no possible way that when they were writing laws for free speech and things like that could have been anticipating new technology like that. But the core foundation of the spirit of the laws, you would hope, would be preserved. So while there are certain documents like the Charter of Rights, if there's a lot of interpretation that could be taken regarding the application of the Charter of Rights, then yes, I agree that it could and should be rewritten so that it doesn't need to be updated if at all possible, and that it can't be updated unless there are certain conditions to be met, and those conditions could not be or should not be to the benefit of one class of people over another, if that makes sense. Okay. What do we got?
So this one's from Flying Beaver. It says, serious question. Why could they not just make the election 1 week ahead of the usual date rather than 1 week later? And this is the exact same question that I had. And I found out that allegedly it's Thanksgiving that Monday. But I guess that begs the question, why does it have to be on a Monday? Why can't we do it on the Tuesday or the Wednesday or any other day of the week?
Right, or the Friday. Like there's so many other days. So
There's 7 in a week. Like, pick
or
one.
why does it have to move at all? Right? Because the last election was on a Jewish holiday. We didn't care that it was on a Jewish holiday, but we care that it's on a non-Jewish holiday now. I don't, nobody's buying this, right? So why do you have to move it at all? That's the question. Next.
Okay. Sorry, I had one and then I lost it. Oh, here it is. It's from NE Celtic Sox. It says, who do you think would be a better leader for the Ontario PCs than Ford? Cypher.
Honestly, they need a lot of new MPPs.
No, I mean you. You would be a better leader. I wasn't asking you to answer.
Oh. Okay.
Sorry, again, we're behind each other, so we can't. It's hard when you can't see each other's faces to do the show.
That's a job I wouldn't mind doing. I wouldn't mind kicking some ass in Ontario, and
because our healthcare needs serious fixing.
Healthcare, education,
Education
everything.
too. Yeah.
Everything.
All of it.
Needs
Long-term care, all of it.
Daryl Campbell with a $2 super chat. It's called Ministry for Men's Behavior. No joke. Wow. That's something. That's that Australian ministry that Daryl was talking
about. Huh.
Of men's.
What is that supposed to be for?
Well, you can probably guess.
Well, because if they're saying like, oh, young men are, miserable and violent and whatever, are you surprised? Look what you guys have done with the world.
Australian state appoints official for men's behavior change as outcry over violence against women grows.
Wait, scroll up for me. Outcry over violence against women?
Yes.
Or the actual violence against women stats?
No, as
grows.
outcry.
Okay.
Because I used to watch some Australian talk shows, and I believe, unless it has changed, I believe the violence against, like the domestic violence stats for Australia have actually been decreasing. Now, the narrative, and I think everyone agrees with it, is any domestic violence is one too many. However, if you see a trend, a downward trend, that means what you're doing is working. So, but what the conservative commentators are actually talking about in Australia, from what I've heard, and I haven't done a lot of research in this is just anecdotal, but what they're saying is that as the stats decline for domestic violence, the outcry is increasing. And the question is why? And the response seems to be because, like feminism, as the need for feminism decreases, that means the potential dollars behind feminism decreases. So how do you ensure that dollars increase for a cause that is declining? Well, then you invent new things or you make more noise. So that is that's the narrative behind that. But thank you very much for that, Daryl. I'm actually going to do some reading about that after the stream is over. So what do we got next?
Sorry, just 1 second here. Brent Borland, member for 6 months, says the Governor General has intervened in Canadian elections once during the Second World War. Interesting. Was that... I remember there was... I think it was the First World War, but I'm not sure.
The First World War...
Where they said, we will delay the election by a year. Yeah.
Yes.
So that's different. Okay.
So that's interesting. Thank you very much for that historical fact.
And I think that's going to be it for us, folks. We're going to wrap it up for the night. We've got an early morning tomorrow.
Yeah, and we're kind of running on fumes on our batteries here, so.
Yeah, our mics are going to probably cut out soon.
So we're not going to be going nearly to 11:30 like we typically do. So, but we do thank everyone for joining us. Hopefully, it was good enough.
Yeah, hopefully the audio was okay despite the backup mics and the backup computers and the backup everything.
And Will Kowalczyk wants 50 more likes for the so he can drop his 10 memberships. So so however you guys want to try and get that. And Revisays with a $2 super chat. Oilers win. Yes, they sure do. And John Caldaway with a $2 super chat. I'd prefer a ministry of silly walks.
Could you imagine?
That would be...
Like, on the one hand, I would be upset that taxpayers are paying for such a ridiculous thing, and on the other hand, I would really appreciate the Monty Python reference.
Right. So, we will try to do a video tomorrow. I don't know if we'll be doing one Tuesday, because Tuesday we'll be driving all day and setting the planet on fire in our wake. So we'll see what happens, but thank you everybody for joining us tonight. We appreciate all of you so much, and we will catch you in the comments, and have a good night, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great night.